Ethan Carver had never expected that a simple mission could change the way an entire species saw humanity. He was just a messenger, a human diplomat sent to deliver a peace message to the Xylarian Empire. The message was short, simple, and meant to prevent any misunderstanding between Earth and the distant alien civilization. But nothing in Ethan's life had prepared him for the moment he arrived at the Xylarians' capital. The starship descended slowly through the dense, violet-colored clouds of Xylaria's atmosphere. The view was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Massive crystalline towers stretched into the sky, reflecting the light of the twin suns in thousands of shimmering colors. Rivers of liquid light flowed across the landscape like veins of energy, and flying creatures with translucent wings glided gracefully between the towers. Everything about this world seemed alive, yet perfectly ordered. Ethan gripped his seat as the ship landed on a platform high above the ground. The hatch opened, and a soft, melodic hum filled the cabin. It was not music, it was communication, a language Ethan couldn't understand. The walls of the landing bay pulsed with light, changing colors with each wave of the sound. A moment later, figures emerged from the glow. They were tall, slender, and elegant, their skin a silvery blue that shimmered in the ambient light. Their eyes were large and dark, reflecting the world around them like polished mirrors. Ethan had seen alien depictions before, but nothing compared to standing face to face with a living Xylarian. A group of them approached, and their leader stopped in front of him. She radiated authority. Ethan assumed she was important, perhaps the queen herself, though he could not be certain. She spoke, but her words were not in any human language. The translator implanted in Ethan's ear hummed and crackled before rendering the alien words into English. "You are the human messenger," it said in a calm, deliberate voice. Ethan stood, forcing calm into his posture. "Yes, I am. I have a message from Earth." The Xylarian nodded, her head tilting slightly, as if studying him. Ethan blinked. "Remain here?" "Yes. You are not free to leave until the Queen deems it so." The word struck him like a shock. He had expected formalities, perhaps inspection, but not captivity. And yet, there was no anger in her tone, no threat. It was simply a statement of fact. He had no choice but to follow. The Xylarians led him through corridors that seemed to breathe. The walls shimmered, changing from silver to gold, then to deep violet, as if reacting to their presence. Ethan noticed small details, tiny floating lights that guided their path, patterns on the floor that shifted like liquid, and soft, echoing sounds that seemed like whispers but carried no words. The place was magnificent and alien, and Ethan felt both awe and unease. Finally, they reached a large chamber at the heart of a crystalline tower. The room was enormous, easily the size of a football field, with ceilings that arched impossibly high. A soft light glowed from the walls, illuminating intricate patterns that Ethan could not begin to understand. In the center of the chamber sat Queen Virelia. She was taller than the other Xylarians, her form regal and commanding. Her skin shimmered with a subtle golden hue, and her eyes were deep pools of intelligence. She did not rise as he approached. Instead, she studied him with a look that was almost curious. "You are human," she said. Her voice, though calm, carried weight. "I have never seen your kind up close. You are fragile. Yet, you have come willingly to my world." Ethan bowed slightly, careful not to show fear. "I bring only a message of peace, Your Majesty. Earth wishes to establish a connection with your empire." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Peace?" she repeated. "We will see." Before he could respond, Xylarians motioned him to a small area at the edge of the chamber. It was simple, almost sparse compared to the grandeur around him. A few crystalline furnishings, a soft glowing floor, and walls that seemed to hum softly. They left him alone, and the door closed silently behind them. Ethan sat on the crystal bench, trying to process the events. He was not imprisoned in a traditional sense. The room was open, beautiful, and filled with light. But he was not free. He could not leave. Every instinct screamed caution. Yet part of him was fascinated. He had always been curious about other life forms. But nothing prepared him for the living architecture, the intelligent light, and the Queen's enigmatic presence. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time seemed different here. Ethan explored his small chamber carefully, noting that the walls seemed almost alive, pulsing gently when he touched them. The floor under his feet shimmered in response to his movement. It was not threatening, yet he felt the subtle pressure of being observed. Finally, the Queen spoke again. The words echoed in his mind through the translator. "You are unlike any being I have encountered. Not strong, not fast, not fierce in the usual sense. Yet you are here. You have faced a journey many would not survive." Ethan straightened. "I am just a messenger. That is all I am." The Queen's eyes seemed to pierce through him. "Perhaps. But even a simple messenger can reveal much about their people. I am curious, human. I will keep you here until I understand why your kind exists at all. Why you are remarkable." Ethan's heart raced. The words were strange. He had never thought of humans as remarkable in the eyes of a species far older and more advanced than his own. He wanted to argue, but he understood there was no point. Days passed in the chamber. Ethan was provided with food and water, which appeared as small, glowing orbs that expanded into a meal when held. He was never left alone for long. A few Xylarians would come to observe, silently noting his movements, his reactions, his problem-solving abilities. The challenges began subtly. First, small puzzles manipulating light patterns on the walls to open hidden compartments. Then, ethical tests, scenarios presented in holographic form, where Ethan had to choose between his own safety or helping simulated beings. Each time, he acted according to human instinct, improvisation, and empathy. The Xylarians recorded everything. Ethan noticed the Queen observing him during these trials. She never intervened, but her presence was palpable. Her interest was clear, and it was unlike anything he had ever experienced from an alien species. She seemed fascinated by him. By the end of the first week, Ethan began to understand a pattern. He was being tested not for punishment, but for observation. The Queen was studying what made humans different. She was trying to understand the spark that made them survive, think, and act in unpredictable ways. One evening, as the twin suns set over the crystalline towers, Ethan stood by the chamber window. The sky was ablaze with colors he could not name. The Queen approached silently, standing just behind him. "You wonder why you are here," she said softly. "You are small in the grand scheme of the galaxy, yet you carry something extraordinary. I do not yet know what it is. Perhaps it is courage. Perhaps it is unpredictability. Perhaps it is something deeper." Ethan turned to her, a mix of fear and determination in his eyes. "I am just a human. I do not understand why you care." Queen Virelia smiled faintly. "A rare expression for a Xylarian. That is why I keep you here. I must see it for myself. The spark, the essence. You may be a simple messenger, but you are the first human I have ever met, and the first human I intend to understand." Ethan realized then that his mission had changed. It was no longer about delivering a message of peace. It was about surviving, understanding, and showing the Queen what humanity truly was. As the night deepened, Ethan prepared himself for the days ahead. The chamber, the Queen, and the tests were only the beginning. And somewhere deep inside, he felt a flicker of hope. If he could show the Xylarians what humans were capable of, maybe, just maybe, he could change their perception of his entire species. And so, the simple messenger became a prisoner, a student, and perhaps, in time, a teacher of humanity's most dangerous and remarkable secret, the human spirit. The next morning, Ethan awoke in the same glowing chamber, but the atmosphere felt different. It was no longer only a place of confinement. The air itself seemed charged with purpose, as if the walls themselves expected him to act. The twin suns rose over the crystalline towers outside, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the floor. He rose from the bench and stretched, preparing himself for whatever trials the Queen had planned next. Almost immediately, a soft hum announced the arrival of his observers. The Xylarians did not enter at first. Instead, the chamber itself shifted. Panels on the walls opened, revealing complex three-dimensional puzzles that floated in the air. Shapes of light twisted and rotated, forming intricate patterns that seemed impossible to solve at first glance. Ethan frowned but approached. He remembered the Queen's words. She wanted to see the spark of humanity. He took a deep breath and examined the puzzle. Unlike the Xylarians, who would rely on calculation and flawless logic, Ethan had a human-advantage intuition. He traced patterns with his fingers, experimenting, failing, and trying again. Slowly, piece by piece, the puzzle began to yield. Lights clicked into place, forming a glowing map of a planet. A panel opened in response, revealing a new challenge, a simulated ethical scenario. Holograms of beings appeared, some injured, some in danger, others needing help. The instructions were simple. Choose which beings to save, which to leave, which to negotiate with. Ethan's mind raced. He noticed patterns in the simulations. Some beings were intentionally deceptive, some trapped him in moral dilemmas. He paused, thinking not like a machine, but like a human. His choices were guided by empathy and reasoning together, not pure calculation. The simulations reacted unpredictably. Some holograms seemed to change their behavior in response to his decisions. The room hummed and shifted, reflecting the results of each action he took. Hours passed. Yet Ethan did not feel time as a burden. He was engaged, challenged, and for the first time, truly visible to the Queen. From the corner of his eye, he noticed her presence. Queen Virelia had appeared silently, standing just behind a pillar. Her expression was unreadable, yet her eyes followed every movement he made. She did not speak, but her curiosity was almost tangible. Ethan felt a mix of pride and caution. He understood that every action was being recorded, every choice analyzed. This was more than a test, it was a study of human adaptability. By the third day, the challenges became physical. The chamber transformed into a maze of energy barriers, shifting platforms, and dangerous gaps. The walls pulsed as if alive, responding to Ethan's presence. Each step required balance, timing, and creativity. The Xylarians observed silently, but Ethan could feel their disbelief. He was not fast or strong, but he was clever. He found ways to use the environment to his advantage, leaping across gaps, using reflective surfaces to redirect beams of energy, and thinking several steps ahead. When he reached the end of the maze, the Queen spoke for the first time since the physical challenge began. "You move differently from my people," she said. "You do not calculate every possibility. You adapt. You improvise. You take risks. Most beings would fail, yet you succeed." Ethan wiped sweat from his brow and gave a small, wry smile. "I'm just trying my best," he said. "That's what humans do." The Queen tilted her head, intrigued. "You say, trying your best, and yet it yields results others cannot predict. Fascinating." The following days brought even greater trials. He faced puzzles that combined ethics, logic, and physical skill simultaneously. One simulation placed him in a scenario where two groups needed help, but only one could be saved. The holograms were dynamic. They argued, pleaded, and even attempted to deceive him. Ethan's human intuition guided his choices. He found solutions that were unexpected, yet effective, often saving more than the simulation allowed. Each success was noted by the Queen, though she never praised him. Instead, she asked questions, probing deeper. "What motivates you to act this way?" she asked one evening. "Why risk yourself for others, even when logic says it is unnecessary?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because we care. That's how humans survive, not just by being strong, but by helping each other. By thinking in ways no one expects." Queen Virelia considered this. "Perhaps your unpredictability is your strength. Perhaps your loyalty and moral compass are dangerous." Ethan frowned. Dangerous? Yes. To civilizations like mine. To empires that rely on logic and control. Your people might seem fragile, but your mind, your choices, your adaptability, they could change everything. For the first time, Ethan realized the Queen did not see humans as weak. She saw something far more powerful, the human spirit. He felt a mixture of pride and unease. Being observed was one thing, but knowing he was being judged as a potential threat was another. On the 7th day, the Queen introduced a final trial, one that combined everything he had faced so far. A massive holographic simulation filled the chamber, depicting a galaxy at war. Ethan could see planets burning, fleets of ships clashing, and countless lives at risk. The challenge was simple, in words. Choose a strategy to stop the war. But the simulation was complex, with countless variables and unpredictable consequences. Ethan studied the scenario carefully. He thought like a human improvising, weighing moral choices, considering diplomacy, and taking risks others would never dare. His solutions were not perfect, but they were bold and unexpected. Slowly, the war began to turn in the simulation. Civilians were saved, battles ended without total destruction, and alliances formed where none had existed. The chamber fell silent. The walls pulsed gently, reflecting the completion of the simulation. Queen Virelia stepped forward, her gaze fixed on Ethan. "You are unlike any being I have ever encountered," she said softly. "You think differently. You act differently. You survive differently. I have studied many species, ruled many civilizations, but you are remarkable." Ethan swallowed. "I'm just human," he said. "I do what anyone would do if they could." The Queen smiled faintly. "That is precisely what makes you extraordinary. You do not see your limits. You improvise. You persist. You act with courage, morality, and ingenuity. That is what I seek to understand. That is why you are here." For the first time, Ethan felt a sense of clarity. He had thought he was simply a messenger, a small figure delivering a simple note of peace. But in the eyes of Queen Virelia, he was more. He was a representative of something far larger than himself, the human species. His choices, his adaptability, and his courage were not just tests for him. They were a revelation to an entire empire. Over the next hours, he and the Queen talked, though not as prisoner and ruler. They discussed human behavior, choices, morality, and survival. Ethan realized that she was learning not just about him, but about what humanity could offer to the galaxy. And the more he spoke, the more he understood the Queen's fascination. Humans were unpredictable, daring, and clever in ways the Xylarians could not calculate. They could adapt, survive, and even outthink species far older and stronger. As the twin suns set again, Ethan looked out over the city of crystal towers. He understood the shocking truth. His captivity was not punishment. It was recognition. Queen Virelia had kept him not to imprison, but to study the human mind, to learn why humans were different, and perhaps to prepare for a galaxy where humans would become a force no one could ignore. For the first time, Ethan felt a spark of hope. His mission was no longer simple. It was no longer about delivering a message. It was about showing what humans were capable of. Each trial, each challenge, each choice was a chance to demonstrate the power of human courage, creativity, and morality. And in that moment, Ethan understood something deeper. Humanity's greatest strength was not technology, weapons, or speed. It was the human spirit itself. And the Xylarians, for all their beauty and intelligence, had never seen anything like it before. The chamber was quiet that morning. Ethan Carver had faced countless trials, and though he had succeeded in every one, he knew the greatest test had yet to come. Queen Virelia entered the room silently, her golden eyes fixed on him. There was no fanfare, no ceremony, just the quiet weight of observation. "You have endured much," she said. "You have shown creativity, courage, and morality beyond what my species expected. Yet, there is one final trial, one that will reveal what you are truly made of." Ethan straightened. "I understand, Your Majesty. I will do my best." The Queen's eyes softened slightly, though the challenge in her gaze remained. This trial is not just about skill or knowledge, it is about choice. And the choice you make will determine not only your fate, but the way I see your species forever. The room shifted, as it had so many times before. A massive holographic simulation unfolded around Ethan, filling the chamber with stars, planets, and fleets of alien ships. Unlike the previous challenges, this one was not a puzzle to solve, nor a scenario to navigate. It was a moral test, designed to tempt, pressure, and challenge every instinct he had. A voice, calm and measured, spoke in his mind through the translator. "You may leave this galaxy unharmed, or you may choose to save billions of lives at great risk to yourself. Choose wisely. There is no right answer." Ethan's heart pounded. He had faced impossible odds before, but this trial was different. This was not about speed, cleverness, or even logic. It was about values, about courage, and about who he truly was. He looked at the holographic worlds, imagining the lives he could save if he risked everything. Hours passed as Ethan analyzed the situation. He considered every option, every consequence, every possible outcome. But then he realized something. There was only one path he could follow, one decision that aligned with everything humans stood for. He took a deep breath and acted. Ethan coordinated a plan that minimized risk to the galaxy, saving billions of lives. The strategy required trust, timing, and boldness, qualities the Xylarians rarely relied upon. When the simulation concluded, the stars shimmered with calm light, and the war vanished, leaving planets intact and life flourishing. For a moment, the chamber was silent. Then, the Queen spoke. "You chose to risk yourself for others, not because you had to, not because it was required, but because it was right. You did not calculate personal gain or safety. You acted according to your nature." Ethan's chest rose and fell. "That's how humans survive," he said simply. "We act, even when it's dangerous, because it's the right thing to do." Queen Virelia stepped closer. Her gaze was intense, but there was no malice, only awe. "I have studied countless species. I have observed the strongest, the fastest, the most intelligent. But your kind, your species is different. You combine courage, morality, and adaptability in ways I have never seen. You survive because you are unpredictable. You succeed because you care. And that is dangerous. Dangerous? Ethan asked cautiously. Yes, she replied. Your species may appear weak, unremarkable, and fragile. But your mind, your decisions, and your spirit, these are forces that no empire can ignore. A human is not easily defeated because humans do not act the way others expect. They improvise. They endure. They fight with their hearts as much as their minds. You have proven this to me. Ethan felt a mixture of pride and relief. The trials were not punishment. They were recognition. The Queen had tested him not to harm him, but to understand the essence of humanity. Over the next hours, they spoke openly. Ethan shared what he knew of human society, culture, and history, explaining how humans learned to survive through collaboration, morality, and ingenuity. The Queen listened with fascination, her earlier skepticism replaced by admiration. You carry the spirit of your people, she said, not as a weapon, but as a force. You are a messenger. Yes, but also a teacher. You have shown me what it means to be human, and it is shocking. Ethan smiled faintly. I'm glad I could show you, but I don't think it's just me. It's all humans. We survive, we adapt, we help each other. That's why we endure. Queen Virelia nodded. Then your species is more remarkable than I imagined. Not because of your technology, not because of strength, but because of your choices. Your unpredictability, your loyalty, your courage. It is something even an empire like mine cannot fully comprehend. You are extraordinary. For the first time since his arrival, Ethan felt truly seen. He had gone to Xylaria as a simple messenger, carrying a short note of peace. He would leave as something more a representative of humanity's greatest strength. The human spirit itself. The Queen gestured, and a portal opened in the chamber. You may return to your world, she said. But know this. Your presence here has changed my view of your species. Humans will no longer be underestimated. And I will watch your people with respect and caution. Ethan stepped through the portal, feeling the weight of her words. He returned to his ship, the crystalline towers of Xylaria fading behind him. Yet he carried more than the message of peace. He carried the knowledge that humans, ordinary as they seemed, had qualities that even the most advanced civilizations could not ignore. As the ship lifted off, Ethan looked at the galaxy stretching out before him. He thought of the trials, the simulations, and the Queen's words. Humanity was small in the grand scheme of the cosmos. Yet within that smallness lay something immense, a spark that could survive, endure, and even thrive in ways the universe did not expect. Days later, back on Earth, Ethan delivered the message. It was short and formal, but no longer the only thing he carried. He now carried the understanding that humans were remarkable in ways others could not predict, and that the universe would take notice. He also carried a quiet pride, knowing he had passed the Queen's ultimate test, not through strength, not through technology, but through the qualities that made humans truly unique: courage, empathy, adaptability, and the ability to act rightly even when it was difficult. The Xylarian Empire had learned something shocking about humanity, and through Ethan, humans had proven that even a single messenger could reveal the extraordinary potential of an entire species. And somewhere, among the stars, Queen Virelia continued to study the humans, not as weaklings, but as a force the galaxy would soon recognize, respect, and perhaps even fear. Ethan Carver returned to his simple life on Earth, but he was forever changed. He had faced the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, endured trials designed to challenge every aspect of his being, and emerged as a testament to the power of the human spirit. He had delivered a message of peace, but more importantly, He had shown that humans were not to be underestimated, and in the vastness of space, that was a truth more powerful than any weapon. The simple messenger was no longer simple. He was a symbol of what humanity could achieve, a spark of ingenuity and courage that burned brighter than the twin suns of Xylaria. And the galaxy had taken notice.